if that animal pops out at a different number, oh, he's at 440. Okay, my 400 is 1.8. 40 yards more is going to be 4/10. So I'm going to go 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
So now my dope is there and it's that fast.
I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Ruger, Wheeler, Smith & Wesson, Range Ready, and Colt. All right, welcome to Gun Talk Nation. We are back with part 2, talking with Frank Galli from Sniper's Hide. We were having so much fun. We said, well, this is going to have to be a two-parter. So, and I kind of said on the last one, talking long-range shooting, rifle shooting, you know, it's not really a rabbit hole. It's a really, really deep trench, like one of those ones in the Atlantic Ocean that, you know, they filmed The Abyss in or whatever. It's an abyss. So, where we last left off, we were talking about kind of where we are now with modern rifle shooting and competitions and the gear. And I will encourage you, if you didn't hear the previous one with Frank, go tune in and listen to it. We kind of talked about where did this all start, going back 25 years, and, you know, what did we start learning? But kind of there's been so much in the world of long-range rifle shooting that's happened in the past 5-10 years. Frank, we were talking about gear, and that's been kind of crazy. But what about techniques? Has that changed that much?
Yeah, well, the guns have changed. So we're across the course, people, positional. You're going to shoot prone, sitting, kneeling, standing. And so the guns had to adapt where before everybody shot prone, and that was great. Then it was like, okay, we're going to shoot off this barricade. And it was, whoa, wait a minute. Now you're getting crazy. Well, now we start balancing and tuning the guns. So the guns will balance, like with tripod. I do a lot of tripod stuff. I think a tripod is the one tool I won't do without today. So if you said bipod or tripod, I'm taking a tripod.
Well, it's totally different now, too, because you have Arca rail, right? Arca rail and all those ways of attaching. Like the tripod has, I mean, in certain
it's gone from a camera.
It's part of the gun.
Yes, it's gone from a camera tripod, your Manfrottos, to the really right stuff now, and that changed the game because now we're shooting. So the difference for kind of like short answer, it's weight rating. The old camera tripods we used had a 25-pound or less weight rating because we're just popping a camera on them.
Mm-hmm.
Today, those really right stuff tripods have a 75 to 100-pound weight rating. It's us and the rifle on top.
Yeah, because you're pushing into it.
Yeah, well, we try not to, but we used to really wrap ourselves in it. And that's part of technique that changed. Now I'm backed off. Less, because the guns are balanced.
Free-floating type of technique.
Everything, right. And then the triggers are so light now. So our triggers used to be 3 pounds. Then we went to 2 pounds. Now they're in ounces, 4 ounces, 8 ounces. So there's no penalty on a bad trigger press.
You got to sneak up on those triggers.
Yes, in those triggers, if you don't dry fire ahead of time, you're going to ND. And there was a period they were NDing a lot.
Oh boy.
Yeah, except mostly on the clock and facing down range, but guys would come in with their hand under time and touch the trigger and light them off. So then you had to balance, well, where does my trigger go now? And like, I think 16 ounces, not pounds, 16 ounces is a great middle ground for people. You don't want to do the 4. Pro guys go with 8 all day and no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But then a guy doesn't want 3 either. Right. So 16, 1.5, 16 is a good place and it's safe. There's no issues with the triggers. And our triggers are just so much better now. I mean, the trigger tech doesn't move. Even the 2 stage is so adjustable. I use the 2 stages. I come from the AI world and the old school way, so I'm a 2-stage guy.
It's okay. We it's kind of a blessing and a curse around here because we get so many different types of guns in.
Yeah,
and we're shooting, and it's just hell. It's the way I grew up. It's like, here's this new gun, learn how to shoot it, and you can get comfortable and good with most types of trigger pulls. Like, I mean, people may have a preference on one or the other, but if it's like, hey, you don't shoot 2-stage trigger, but here's a 2-stage trigger, and let's go run a class for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
By day 2 and 3, 4, you're getting comfortable with it. You're fine. And I think that's also true for a lighter trigger, because people go, ooh, I don't know about all that.
Exactly.
But if you shoot a 1.5 pound trigger or a 1 pound trigger or whatever, at first, if you're not used to that, that's wild. But if you get used to it all day, I mean, my grandfather, he liked that, like, this is a hunting rifle.
Yeah, on
1.5, 2 pound trigger. And he'd pick one up and go, oh gosh, that's one of Granddad's rifles. Yeah. But you know, as long as you're used to it, you know what you're getting into.
You got to practice. You got to dry fire. And that's kind of, we promote that, you know, everything now in these comps, it's all that dry practice at home. It's all that repetition and learning where you're going to put your feet, where you're going to put the bag, where the rifle goes on the bag, and where your balance points are. So that technique becomes a big deal. But it has changed in so many ways, even like the jewels. We used to carry jewel triggers because those were the bench rest triggers. But guys would have to carry 2 because we would break them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have photographs for days of the triggers. The same thing with the levels. You know, everybody's throwing electronic levels and all the electronics and the fiber optics now.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, green light, blue light, red light, this light. It's like green or blue. It's this. And so they're doing things that are quicker, because if you're staring at little tiny lights, you're going to steer into the lights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have to get something that's more centered, that's more neutral, because like you're saying, a lot of what we do is subconscious with this. The trigger press, you don't even know you're doing things, you know, all that stuff. So you're kind of tuning the rifle to your subconscious actions when they're on the clock. And that's the only way to combat, you know, canting the rifle wrong or pushing into it, like, you know, or doing something so when the shot breaks, you're not still moving. And
Frank, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't push into the rifle on a 400-yard elk this year and hit him in the neck.
Right.
I didn't do that. But except I'm going to tell on myself. The elk is dead, is at the processor right now.
Yes.
So, you know, it was okay, but I shot it. The elk went down. Guide's like, yeah, she's down. It was a cow elk. She's down. Great shot.
Yeah.
Cool. We go
Barnes
up there.
PSX, right? Yeah, the Barnes bullet.
Well, it was that new 7mm backcountry.
There you go. You changed your caliber to fix your bad placement.
Well, we're trying out new stuff, right? And so,
yes.
But we go up there, and he's like, "Oh, you hit her in the neck," and the guide's like, "I don't care. Cool, dead elk. I'm glad we didn't have to chase her." And the whole time, it was eating me up because I'm going, what the hell? And I mean, yeah, I know the elk's dead and it's all good. It was 1 shot, 1 kill, cool. But like, that's not what I saw through the scope. And and everything felt great. And it wasn't until we got back to the office, because I was running, I can't remember what it was basically one of those cameras that's on the
trigger cam. Yeah, the trigger cam.
It was like a trigger cam deal. It's all built in, until I watched it and I put it in slow motion. And I had to watch it a bunch of times, Frank. And then Chris is like, you were pushing into that gun and you just pushed a little bit. And it was just so much, so subtle. It's
microns and milliseconds. In a precision rifle, because we're so far away, it's microns and millisecond. If I'm in an AR kicking a door in and coming in this room behind me, I don't care if I hit you, you know, here or here.
Yeah.
Who cares?
You know, bad guy, whatever.
Right. But now if I extend that out to, you know, 1,000 yards, that inch just grew 10 inches and now I'm off my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that kind of stuff comes into play. And I mean, that's where you're seeing software come in, and that's why we did our gravity ballistics, and everybody runs the Kestrels and even the Garmin watches. And I run Vectronics laser rangefinder through applied ballistics in my Garmin watch.
You can't miss. It's impossible to miss now, right?
I throw my Vectronics up, I hit the button, I roll my wrist, and I look at my watch, and I dial it up. Mm-hmm. And I'm never coming out of this space.
You're
And
behind the gun the whole time.
the whole time. And so
Yeah.
I can put a bag up on my scope, hit the laser,
Mhm.
or if I have the tripod, I can laser and then walk to my gun. And in the 3 steps between the tripod and the laser and my rifle, I dial my dope up. But it's so good now. And the cartridges are just so, I mean, the data we have is next level.
Yeah,
And,
it is.
with the electronics and
Now,
so yeah,
okay,
crazy.
so here's what we're going to do. After the break, we're going to answer that guy who's listening to this right now who says, well, yeah, you got all these gadgets, like there's no skill involved. And how can you miss?
Well, but that's the trick.
Meet the Colt Viper, because sometimes you want a sleek, powerful revolver without the extra weight of a full lug barrel dragging you down like that one hunting buddy who forgot his ammo. Again. Built like the King Cobra but trimmed down with a half-lug barrel, the Viper is lighter and faster, chambered in .357 Magnum with stainless steel construction and modern machining that makes it as smooth as it looks. This thing is polished to perfection. Bottom line, classic Colt style, modern precision, and all bite, no bloat. The Colt Viper. Ever wanted to train at a top-tier shooting facility that used to be a slaughterhouse? Well, dreams do come true. Welcome to Range Ready Training, the home of Gun Talk Media, where we turned an abandoned meat processing plant into one of the best firearm training facilities in the country. Led by Chris Serino, Range Ready offers pistol, rifle, women's only, force on force, and instructor development courses. Whether you're a newbie, a pro, or that guy who thinks watching YouTube makes you an expert, we've got a class for you. So if you're serious about getting better, training smarter, and maybe experiencing a little Louisiana charm along the way, come check out Range Ready Training. Ruger and Magpul walked into a bar and somehow, instead of starting a fight, they built a handgun masterpiece, the Ruger RXM. This American-made pistol is everything you want: exceptional ergonomics, upgraded features, and a price tag that won't require selling a kidney. Bottom line, the RXM is built for you, your budget, and your obsession with tweaking your gun until it's just right. So go ahead and make it yours. Ruger and Magpul already did the hard part. You ever wrestle with a scope ring screw like it owes you money? Over tighten, and you're in a world of hurt. Under tighten, and good luck holding zero. Well, enter the Wheeler Fat Wrench Auto Torque, the first battery-powered screwdriver with an integrated torque limiter. Set your torque from 10 to 65 inch-pounds, pull the trigger, and let the 200 RPM motor do the work. When it hits your number, it stops automatically. Get more precise installs for your red dots, scope bases, and action screws. Get your hands on the Fat Wrench Auto Torque. Meet the Smith & Wesson CSX E-Series, because apparently Smith & Wesson took one look at their already great CSX pistol and said, yeah, we can do even better. The new E-Series trigger, crisp, clean, smoother than your grandpa's whiskey. And of course, it's optics ready with a clear sight cut so your fancy red dot won't get blasted with carbon like a neglected grill. With 9mm power, up to 17 rounds, and all the upgrades you never knew you needed, the CSX E-Series isn't just an evolution, it's proof that Smith & Wesson refuses to take a day off. Hey, thanks for listening, thanks for watching this podcast. If you like what you're hearing here, we would love it if you would subscribe. So that way, you get to find out when we launch new episodes. So you'll be the first to know and the first to listen. Also, another way you can really help us out is if you like what we're doing here, go leave us a review and rate the podcast wherever you're listening, whether that be Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast listening service. Rate us, review us, and thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Frank, I think that people listening to this go, okay, but you're talking about all this gear.
Yeah.
And like, well, yeah, of course you can hit a target at 1,000 yards. No problem. Easy. But like,
I can solve it with my gravity ballistics. We doped gravity. So I can make the math now, like 1 mil at 300 yards, which is pretty typical,
yeah,
times 1.75 is a center hit at 400. What I did is I found the distance between 2 points at either 100 yard or meter, because it's a rounding error. And so we have a number now. So I can do, and I have a chart thing, like we can do simple math. That dopes and does everything to the rifle now. And it's like the numbers are 1.75 times, 1.45 times. And that just marches you out because the number gets smaller. It goes from
right.
175 to 122. So you're just multiplying your dope in mils or MOA times that little tiny number, and it's going to dope you perfect. And I even have like a $5 app that does it. So it'll do it all for you.
Okay, so somebody listening to this who this is like wild to them. Okay, you mentioned an app. Favorite
Yeah.
apps, favorite tools is for somebody getting started. Maybe they don't know what the Coriolis effect is, but I want to hit stuff at far distance.
Applied ballistics is in everything now. So you really want to go into the applied ballistics world.
Mm-hmm.
My app, my gravity ballistics is $4.99. It dopes your rifle to give you the data for your solvers. Now, if you don't leave your range and if you're kind of the seasonal guy and I shoot the same range an hour away all season, my app will work. But if you're going to be like, I'm going to hunt, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, you want something that moves with you. The Kestrel, I like for guys who today you buy a Kestrel before you buy a chronograph. Now the Garmin changed that. The Garmin is just amazing. Gadgets, right? The Garmin chronograph is next level what it does. And that Garmin communicates with certain apps. So,
Okay.
but what you want to shoot, and if you don't want to be this technical guy that's crunching numbers, you buy either applied ballistics on your phone or Kestrel if you're going to go out in the field and travel. And then you use the gravity ballistics to dope the rifle because it's so simplistic. It's mils or MOA, it's meters or yards because it's a rounding error. And then it's just multiplying. Like I was saying, like 3.5 MOA is 300 yards or 1 mil is 300 yards. If you multiply that number by 1.75, that's going to give you dope for 400 yards. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
And you just dial the next number. Okay, it's going from, from 1.0 to 1.8. It's going from, 3.5 to 8.0.
There's really no reason why somebody has to guess or do Kentucky
No
windage
guessing
on
no
anything.
more. Even the wind, we use a gun number now. So that's a new change, right? So we know, and the gun number goes back to the 40s because the first number of your G1 BC is the wind drift. So going to G1, we used G1 for 80 years because it had value. There was information in a G1 that's not in G7. And what that is your gun number. So now I can look at my box and say, okay, this is a 496 BC. It's a 4-mile-an-hour gun. So I do multiples of 4. Well, if I take the effective wind and say, like now with the comp guys, they're 6-mile-an-hour guns. 6 millimeters, a 6 gun. So 6 miles an hour over 9-mile-an-hour wind is 1.5%. Every target that I don't change my angle is 1.5% of the distance. So I multiply 600 yard by 1.5. I'm doing 0.9. It's all math. We do it in our head. Like I'm not using a calculator, and I can do all this in my head. And then a mile per hour is a tenth of mil. 10 yards is a tenth of mil. So if I have a 680 number, I add 6 or 8 tenths because it's 80. So
And talk about like you kind of mentioned Kestrel, and some people may say, well, a Kestrel, okay, it reads the wind, it tells me how fast it's going and maybe the direction or whatever. But Kestrel as a way to learn how to do this. I mean, you can really learn a lot by just playing with the Kestrel, right?
work the numbers backwards. Right. So now what I do with a Kestrel, you can even do the wind with a Kestrel. You put everything's in there. You could say, okay, I'm reading the wind at 8 miles an hour, but I'm not hitting with this number. Now, if I hit with this number, I can change the wind in the Kestrel till it matches.
Well,
now
it's just kind of how we're doping or we're truing a rifle a different way now.
Backwards. Just do it on the shot, and now you true it backwards, and I can say, actually, that's a 10-mile-an-hour wind out there. Even though I'm reading it at 8, maybe my bullet's going higher off the ground, less wind resistance. Now I have a 10-mile-an-hour wind, where the Kestrel told me it was 8, but the hit's telling me it's something different.
Yeah.
And you can use that Kestrel to work those numbers backwards. But like I said, because guys are on a clock, we've learned to do everything really fast in our head with really tiny numbers. And that's where mils come in. Mils reduce the numbers by a third. And so, a 308,000 yards might be 10, 11 mils. it's not 40 MOA.
Right.
You know, and so I can do 10 or 11. And I still got all that on my hands. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where like the beauty of mills comes in. And then the shortcuts we've developed with mills, like the effective wind over the gun number, works in mills, not in MOA. So
It's
that's
cleaner.
why, yes. And that's why you see a lot of people doing that. And then we just match that bullet. Like I said, it's so easy. 700-yard dope. Okay, I'm gonna hold 4.6. Up, that's 730. Let me add 3/10. So now it's 4.9. And it's that easy. So even hunting, if you know your main yard lines, if that animal pops out at a different number, oh, he's at 440. Okay, my 400 is 1.8. 40 yards more is going to be 4/10. So I'm going to go 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
So now my dope is there and it's that fast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's a
that's
good point
really,
for even people who says I'm not going to go shoot a match. Well, cool, but you could benefit from getting a little bit more familiar with these things, and I mean, it could benefit your hunting.
yes, absolutely. And that's why hunting and mills should be better in doing, I know the MOA guys dig it, and that's a hunting thing because there's 30 million of them and they're
Mm-hmm.
keeping MOA alive. But in our world, we're killing MOA as fast as we can. We want to bury it. And
Yeah.
and and we're even talking now, like, oh, that's a 2/10 hold. Or instead of saying I'm a half mil or half MOA shooter, or I shoot one MOA, we're all like, oh, that's 3/10 because that's a minute. Oh, that's 2/10, that's 1/10. So we're talking our wobble zones, we're talking intense now. And so
Mm-hmm.
it is changing, like everybody's saying, from MOA to mills.
Something that was discussed the other day, and I think it's kind of interesting, is you had everybody shooting these guns, and then it was everyone was shooting suppressed because one, it's more pleasant on the range. Two, perhaps it can make your gun a little bit more accurate. It definitely helps reduce recoil. However, that's changed a bit now, right? Where you're starting
Well,
to, it was like, well, of course you're going to shoot suppressed, but now that's maybe not the case.
they put brakes on them now. The recoil, like Thunder Beast has the recoil reduction. You're going to see aftermarkets brakes going on because it's the pulse. They're on a clock and they don't want slow and back, which is what a
Mm-hmm.
suppressor does. A suppressor is a nice slow push. They want a brake that stops everything now. So what they'll
Like a
do
brick
is
wall.
yes, they're putting a brake on the end of a suppressor, still suppressing the sound, but the brake to stop the movement. It's
So running
all
both?
yes,
Okay.
running both. Like it comes even the Barrett on the big guns, they have both on Barrett. If you look at Thunder Beast, they're running both. Even their 50 cal one now, they run both, but they're bringing them down to the little calibers too. And then, like, I'm a big Able suppressor guy. You're going to see stuff come out of them. But brakes on the suppressor are how they're competing with a suppressor now because why do you need a 4-chamber brake with a 6 millimeter? Because they don't want the gun to move.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep the recoil to 0. And that's what's going on with and they see everything because you don't have a spotter anymore. Nobody, why would you take someone out of a fight and put them on a spotting scope?
Because you're
Even
your own spotter, because that's the whole point, right? You're
right.
able to stay in the gun, stay in the scope, call your shot, call your miss, call your hit.
Even in the military, if I give them guys, we did a lot of classes. We transitioned away to shooter spotter pretty quick in the wars. We went to 2 guns on target, and then I'll say, all right, Ryan, you're going to hold .5, and I'm watching you, and you fire with .5, and it's like, oh shit, you need .8. I do .8 and fire immediately before you do anything.
Fast
So,
follow up.
yep, I come in transition and go, oh no, it's .8, boom, and I transition over, I shoot.
That's
So now
cool.
you took the first shot and doped the win for me,
Yep.
and then I take the answer and put it on the plate or the
Yeah.
target.
If you hit, cool. If you miss, that's also
I
fine.
got
Now I've got data.
Yep, I got you. And
That's
so that's
really
how those
cool.
guys work, and it works much better than a spotting scope. ELR people spotting scopes.
Yeah.
PRS guys and NRL hunter guys are binos. and they want field of view. They like NRL, you got to find the target,
Yeah.
and so PRS is going to point it out to you.
All
But
right. So this is perfect because I wanted to go. Now we're ELR,
PRS,
PRS,
NRL.
NRL, and then how about NRL 22
Yeah.
rimfire leagues? I mean, talk about that.
Rimfire is so amazing. It's like when Voodoo hit the scene, and Sniper's Hide was huge in Voodoo. We were 60% of their business when they came out. And the 22 stuff, 22 scales amazing from like 308.
Mhm.
So 100, like if you zero, like I zero my 22 at 36, people zero 50, 25, somewhere in there. But what it is 100 yards is like your 500-yard shot. And the dope's the same. 1,000 yards on a 22 or on a 6.5 Creedmoor is like a 8.0 kind of thing. Well, 400 yards, not I've got to go back. 200 yards, I skipped one. 200 yards with a 22 is 1,000. So it's 100 yards is 500, 200 yards is 1,000, 400 yards is a mile.
Yeah, a
So
400-yard shot with a 22
right,
rimfire.
and they do it because you're subsonic, and your dope matches to your center fire.
Wow.
If you zero correctly in 22, the most popular range in the United States is 200 yards.
Hmm.
That's 1,000-yard competition with a 22.
Yeah.
So you can stand them up. They go faster. They're kid friendly, right? You're shooting subs. Now, these guys, the comp guys in the NRL Hunter, they bring their guns to Lapua and they dope them either in Dayton or Phoenix, and you give them to them, and Lapua maps your gun. And then they sell you the ammo that pairs to your rifle, like 5,000 rounds worth.
Sure.
And so the top competitors will go to Dayton or go to Phoenix, give Lapua their rifles, and then match the ammo to their rifle. That's how
Wow.
serious 22 is. My 22, $6,000.
There's no such thing as a cheap hobby. My dad,
No.
Tom Gresham, always said that. He goes, I don't care if you're into stamp collecting or
Yep.
whatever it is. If you're in it, you're going to be into it.
And
You're going to spend the money.
I added precision air rifle to Sniper's Hide.
Dude,
I have
you're a mess.
I have a FX Panthera like 5 feet behind me. That's a $3,000 air gun that shoots a half minute at 100 yards. I'm shooting
Wow.
like slugs. And I mean, we have Ballistic X half-minute groups at 100 yards with an air rifle. It's
Yeah.
just insane. I mean, the tank is right behind the rifle behind me. Underneath it is the air tank because I have a scuba tank for
Yep.
my air gun.
Yeah, 3,000
And so
PSI or whatever.
yeah, and they're chambered, they're tuned, they're suppressed. You get a suppressor over the counter.
Over the counter,
And
mailed to your house for
yes,
air guns.
air guns are they're like right now at SHOT Show, they're 700-yard air guns.
And
They
what's
do.
funny about that is, when you're shooting like big bore air guns or whatever, what's crazy is they still sound like an air gun.
Yes.
There's no sound at all, and they're completely legal to suppress. There's you don't have those
It's
regulation
and the
headaches.
crazy thing too is you go to a PRS match, you're gonna win maybe $1,500. If it's a really good one, you might win $3,000 if you win it. You go to air rifle, it's like 20 grand because
What?
because it's TV friendly. So air rifles on
Wow.
TV. And so anything TV ups the prize money. So if you go to like Utah Air and they have a big carnival comp that does bench rest, PRS,
Mhm.
everything, it's like top prize is like 20 grand. And a bunch of the PRS guys will go over to win it because they know. And MPA,
Yeah.
Phil Cashin puts his chassis on an air rifle. So you get a PRS chassis that's built into the FX air rifles.
Unreal. Do you think that, I mean, obviously it can get really crazy. People get really into it. Do you think that that's a great place to start for people, the 22
Yeah.
NRL?
Especially if kids and you
Yeah.
want to kind of bring that in. And if you're not sure, it's fast, it's inexpensive, and it'll tell you whether you like it or not. because
Yeah.
and actually, I kind of think the 22 people move a little bit more now than the PRS people.
Really?
The PRS people stopped moving. They don't have room, and their props are designed where they just kind of maneuver a single prop multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
Where the 22 people, they got more room.
Yeah.
And so they'll move a little bit more, and then their targets are just so fun,
Yeah.
because they have all the crazy movers and the Bigfoots and the springs. So you can do carnival targets
Yeah.
that they don't do with center fire.
Doesn't have to be so serious.
No, not at all. And like I said, you can go on Saturday and be home by 1 o'clock.
Yeah. That's
So
important because, I mean, not everybody has that type of time. And especially if you're trying to, it's a great way to get your kid, if you have kids, bring them because they've got their own activities or whatever. And it's like, we got to keep pushing our community to like, how do we
yep,
get them off the couch and outside and pressing triggers? And because when you get them there, they're going to have a great time.
absolutely. I mean, I've shot with 8-year-olds in PRS type matches. I've shot with 10 and 12-year-olds. One of the guys I shot with when he was 12 just went and shot the international precision rifle match, the international one, and he was on the team. And it's like, I shot with that kid when he was 12. I've shot with girls who do 22 and stuff when they were 8, mainly because they're the same size as me, but it's bringing that new blood in. And so you want to mentor these kids and they're sharp. You know what I mean? You don't have to be afraid of them.
Yeah.
So and it gets them outside, it gets them off their phone, and you could still geek them out with gear in
True.
apps. You could ballistics X them to do their group size. You can, apply ballistics and set up all the little pieces and parts to it.
They like the tech. They're not scared of the tech. They
They're
want
not
like more
scared of
tech is better.
Right. And I do it too. I'll put every piece of tech out just to see it fail.
Mm-hmm.
And like right behind me, I have the new Calypsos, the wind meters. So now we can do the impellerless wind meter that connects to all our software. So wind was the missing part. You had to manually insert wind into software.
Right.
Now the Calypso, you just have to orient it towards north, and then it's impellerless, so it's 360, and it'll feed your software the wind. And
It's
yeah.
like sticking your hand up in the air. It's like, doesn't matter. You don't have to make sure you're pointed in the right direction.
Well, and that's the tripods. They make weather station and ranging station. So your binoculars with your rangefinder, your Kestrel, and then your Calypso all mounted on a tripod base, and they're talking to each other.
Right.
So when you walk up to your stage, you flip your wrist and you go, okay, everything told me it's this. And if it's tuned correctly, then it's just execute.
Wow.
But that's the
wild.
hard part.
Yeah. Oh, and now we get to the actual hard part is you being behind the gun and pressing the trigger and not screwing it up.
It's still everything. I can feed you all of it. If you're like, ram, you're not hitting anything,
Yep. Well, Frank,
yeah.
let's take a minute and talk about training.
Okay.
Because we kind of get real gear centric, but what's the value of training? What can someone expect if they show up and never have done anything like this?
It's the only way to go. You have to practice. Like I said, these guys are paid to practice.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting a $25,000 sponsorship from like a Hornaday or somebody. They got ammo, they got time. So practicing is key. Like the one thing they do is the craft drill. That's the tripod on multiple positions. And you can feed the craft drill into the website. It'll tell you what you are. The average shooter, we do across the course now. A craft drill is 3 shots prone, 3 shots sitting, kneeling, standing on a single target. Your average guy is between 3 and 4 MOA. Okay. The PRS guys are going to be in minute. And that's where I'm a minute shooter and everybody goes minute. I go on my bench and prone and my 8th group, which is the best, is a quarter. Mm-hmm. And these guys go, no, we do all of them at the same time. And my group from prone to standing is a minute. And so that's where you have to be. And so the craft drill is going to be, and it's craft with a K, is going to be your number one training tool.
And how
For
far do they do that?
100 yards if you want. They just do it
Okay.
on paper at 100.
On paper at 100. Is that under time?
You can. Some do, some don't. Some put a time press on it. And some will do what they call build and break. So they put themselves on the clock and they deploy the tripod for each position. Then they shrink it up. Then they build it for the next position. So if they go to a match where they have to shoot the tripod on the clock, some matches let you set your tripod so you run up with it deployed. Some matches say no, the tripod has to be shrunk. And so you deploy it on the clock. And it depends, but deploying on the clock is this is where that benefit of comp, you're going to be faster. You're going to see that animal and you're not going to have that buck fever going, what do I do? Where's going on? You're like, oh, I know, I got this. That thing is moving in slow motion, compared to a clock.
I like this as a measurement, right? So, okay,
Yeah.
can you do the craft drill? So if somebody walks up, okay, 100 yards, you have a paper target, and you are prone, kneeling, sitting, standing, 3 shots from each spot?
Yep, from a supported. So you can use a barricade if you want. If you don't have a tripod, you could just put your bag on a barricade and do it, or they use a tripod. And so they'll do prone, they'll do 3 shots, and that's your baseline. Then they'll go sitting, deploy the tripod, 3 shots. Then they'll go kneeling, deploy the tripod, 3 shots, and it's all on the same target. And it's a little diamond. And then it's scaled out so you can see it, like how many MOA you're going.
Sure.
And then you stand. Like now, I don't go prone that much at all. I do everything standing on a tripod. I shoot half minute standing on a tripod all day, every day. And
But for someone wondering, like, okay, this is a great test because I like this. Okay, you shoot it, and Frank's telling us the average guy
between 3 and 4,
3 to 4 minutes, so 3 to 4 inch group of all those shots. But the really good ones are a 1 inch group. It's a 1 minute group.
Yeah.
So that's the expectation. That's something to shoot for, everybody.
And they can and you could feed it into Riflecraft's website, like scan it and upload your picture. There's like light AI that'll tell you pulled it here with trigger, you breathed here, your natural point of aim is off because the group is shifted. So there's light AI that X and Y is your group if you want, and will give you pointers. So you can go to Riflecraft with a K and feed your picture in and say, I shot this group, photograph it, throw it in, and the AI will go, okay, you did this, 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 and this.
Unreal.
Right?
Unreal, man. This world is crazy. I love it. It's so fun. Thanks for being on with us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I mean, even like there's so many tools now. Shooters Global has the apps that film over you and put all your info on it. So you can film yourself doing handgun, carbine, rifle, and it overlays the shot timers and all the stuff right onto your video. They have the levels that communicate with your phone. So you can go back in time and look and say, oh, I was crooked. Oh, I was this, And so the tools we have today to train and to measure yourself, it's like Mantis, right? Look at Mantis. You go to SHOT Show, there's 8 Mantis booths.
Right. Yeah.
Training with that tool. Well, you could do that with your precision rifle. I've used Mantis to diagnose trigger for people. Oh, this guy's off. Well, let's put a Mantis on it and I'll show you what you're doing because it's microns and milliseconds and we need those computers to point it out. Yeah. And, that's where the training and get training. There's so much great training. I mean, the CR2 guys were the Army instructors. You got Kalen in modern day and Phil with the cadre. Those were the Marine Corps instructors. So all these guys are out there today teaching you, and these were the guys teaching the military from the schoolhouses. And the only difference is they don't have 12 weeks to talk to you. Right. We got 2 hours. So that's the only difference is I can't talk to you for 12 weeks. I got to talk to you in 2 hours.
You just got to come back and do more of it.
Yeah, there's that resale. Yeah. But I mean, the training's fun. They go to great places,
Mm-hmm.
'cause
Absolutely.
the ranges in the US now, because of PRS, because of NRL, have stood up such fantastic locations,
Yeah.
just across the country.
Yeah.
And they take advantage of terrain, and that's what we want. So great stuff.
Awesome. Frank, thanks again, man. This has been so fun. And if people want to learn more, go to snipershide.com. Yes.
Yep, the Hide TV or it's thehide.tv will bring you to the video page.
Cool.
Snipershide.com will bring you to the forum. But we do lessons, we do videos, we do all kinds of instruction. We're always teaching something. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Awesome. Well,
Cool.
that's it for us, guys. If you want to go jump deep into Frank's rabbit hole, you know where to
Yes.
find him. And we'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.